All right, and we're live. Welcome to SampleServe Masterclass Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday. I'm Joshua Paul, Marketing Manager at SampleServe, and with us I have Russell Schindler, the usual founder and CEO of SampleServe. How's it going, Russell?
It's going. Things are good. Busy.
Busy. Yes, I know. What we do here on these Wednesdays is we do usually some tips and tricks from our sampling platform. We like to bring on some of our users to talk about their experience. We like to bring on industry professionals. We like to talk about the industry in general as well. And we like to help you, either get started or learn more about our app. If you have any questions in the chat, leave a little comment on there. We get to it during or after. Even when this is over, you can still comment there. And also, these links to these videos they stay permanent. So after this is over, you can still give this a share to anybody you like. You can go back and watch it again as well. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about our Sample ENV platform. This is our sampling platform for environmental professionals. It works for all kinds of different types of media: soil, vapor, drinking water, groundwater, pretty much anything. And we like to cover this usually on Wednesdays. And today we have a special one about drinking water. So, Russell, tell us about where we're at with the kind of the evolution of testing drinking water with the Sample ENV platform.
So, one of the things that I tell people is like, we don't really care what you put in the bottle, but there's obviously different categories that are very common. Drinking water is probably one of the more common ones. We call it Sample ENV, but drinking water falls under that category. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically, we've designed a program specifically for one client. It was actually the entire state of Texas was our first client for this particular product. And it's for collecting their municipal drinking water sampling. So they've got about 7,200 separate utilities in the state and, about 64,000 samples they collect every year. And so we built this program to kind of facilitate that type of sampling. But it is actually applicable with maybe some customization for other types of utilities out there, maybe cities, other states, even small towns that want to be able to use it. It's very affordable, really streamlines the process, and it can handle obviously large volumes of sampling and make it all seem very organized and very efficient. So it just makes those big, giant projects simple, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's essentially all one. It's one hub to handle the entire process. Whereas before, these guys were going in and they were, doing a little bit of work in this platform, a little bit of work in this platform, a lot of work on paper, transferring that to the multiple platforms, and then trying to keep it all, all the ducks in a row at the same time. Whereas this one allows you to just do it all from one spot.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'll add is that there's multiple laboratories that do this work, and we're able to deliver that data in a digital format to the various laboratories. And even some of the projects require, split samples. So some of the analytical parameters are going to one lab, others are going to another lab. And so we've built the process to make that all very simple.
Yeah. And so what a lot of our clients, their challenges before, especially dealing with paper and dealing with multiple different programs that, aren't necessarily built for what they're trying to do. They have a lot of communication gaps, as in, the project planner is going to be setting things up and getting that work scope and everything that they're planning communicated to the techs and the labs efficiently oftentimes ends up in missed bottle orders or work scope not accurate to the field tech, and then something happens out in the field that they have to go out and resample or something up like that, which costs money and time. And the inconsistent processes, as in there's a lot of data that's unstandardized across this industry. Everybody likes to enter data in differently, especially if you're doing it on paper. And that can lead to a lot of inconsistencies, especially when it comes to putting it all in databases. Because if you're going to put it into a database, everything has to be, exactly the same, or else it's not going to be able to work.
Yeah. And so we help kind of streamline that, make sure that some data is required. If it's on a paper form, They may or may not collect it. And then by the time you get the information, it's day late or days late, and it's too late to actually collect it. So with the app and, digital formats, you can make certain fields required, so they have to do it right at the time of sampling. So it just really does make everything a lot more efficient, and captures the data in the right format, and just makes people follow the particular protocol.
Yeah.
You're going to tell us a little bit more about do you have any screenshots, or I haven't seen this presentation yet. So.
Oh yeah, Russell's in the dark. He just had to join last minute. So right now we're going to talk about the how SampleServe addresses these challenges essentially, and it starts out by streamlining the process. Essentially, implement consistent processes on all sampling events. So when you do things digitally, there's a roadmap, right? There's a process of setting up projects, making forms available that isn't gonna you're not gonna be able to stray from where the normal workflows go. Whereas in another area, if you're not using like something like SampleServe, essentially one project manager can do it like this, one project manager can do it like that, and then when you get everybody together and try to complete the whole data in a whole project, you're essentially going to have way different workflows and data concepts and stuff like that. When everybody's working on the same platform, it's going to be the same, and you're not going to be able to screw things up, essentially.
Right. The other benefit is for the field person, it kind of simplifies everything for them, because they can take photographs of the sample location. So now the next guy goes there for the first time, they actually can see the photograph and where the sample port is or whatever it is they're sampling. They'll be able to go, oh yeah, that's what it is. One of the other features we have in there to make sure that you're sampling the right thing at the right time is we schedule individual field people, so you can assign a project to a specific individual. That's what they're going to do. There's an appointment scheduler, so if you do need to meet somebody, you can tell them what time they need to be there. And then there's a proximity calculator, so it's adjustable by the project manager. So if there's a certain range, you want to make sure that they're on the right location. If they're not within so many meters or feet of that location, it'll pop up an alert and just warn the person, like, hey, you may have the wrong location. Right. They can bypass it if they need to. There may be instances where they, had to bypass it, but at least it warns them, like, hey, you double check your location.
Yeah, and with our platform, the nice thing is that all information that is ever generated is always transferred digitally. So there's no paper handoffs. Right. There's nobody going to the office to picking up the work scope, picking up maps, and picking up all this information and forms and stuff and chain of custodies. And all this stuff can be, all done digitally. So the field tech technically all they really need is their tablet in hand. And they can figure out everything they need to do, everywhere they need to go, and everything that they need to fill out just from there.
Yeah, and we've got two options as well. If you're doing large volumes, it's best to use our mobile label printing, and but we can also pre-print labels in the field as well, so that you can, if you don't want to have everybody have a label printer in the field, you can pre-print the labels, give them their labels they're going to need for the day, and then they can go out and apply the labels when they're collecting the samples.
Yeah. Another thing, improved communication. This is a really big one when you have, the bigger your teams are, the more communication problems that you're going to end up having. So oftentimes, when there's large sampling events that are happening, you got to kind of keep all your ducks in a row. And SampleServe's platform is essentially designed to, have everybody has their individual roles. You can have the admins, the project planners, people that are in charge of, when, where, and how. And then you got field techs that are in the field that are essentially collecting all the data and transferring it. And then you have the laboratories, which are a part of this process, because the laboratories are going to know when you're scheduling events, and they're going to know when it's coming. They're going to receive that data before the samples even come to their office. So everybody's in cahoots with, with what's going on at the same time. Here's a little screenshot of our schedule tab here. You can write in event notes on there. You can write in all kinds of stuff that goes to the sampler. And you can write in stuff that's, you can document pretty much anything, anywhere, anytime that you'd like. And the nice thing is that everybody's on the same page at all times, and you can address problems when they come in the field immediately. On, you know, if the project manager is in the office and let's say, hey, like, hey, I can't do this, I can't sample in this location. You know, is there something that you'd like me to do? Project manager can just go look up the whole project and say, hey, yeah, I'm gonna add this sample location for you real quick. Go over here, it'll show up, you know, on their GPS if they've had the GPS location in there, and they say, okay, I'll do that one instead. So it's really nice and easy and simplified. Anything to add on communication, Russell?
No, I think you said it all.
And here's another big thing for a lot of, especially when we're talking about drinking water, because this is a lot of state-run and government-run situations.
Yeah.
And simplify audit trails. So what that means is that, you know, everything's going to be easily documented. Everything's going to be easily accessible. You can export all this information through various means, and everything's essentially going to be set in stone. There's going to be no paper trail that you're going to have to, you know, looking through a bunch of history of, you know, who wrote this and where is it? You know, it's all going to be in one spot. So one person can access all this information that they need to, as opposed to, you know, going down a long list of history of who touched what and when and where.
When we gather the paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else you got? Oh, the app. That's where the rubber meets the road.
This is where the rubber meets the road, sampling in the field. So collecting data digitally essentially means that that data starts digitally. So there's going to be no, you know, transcribing of that data later on, because all of the data that we're doing in the world right now ends up being digital at some point in its life, right? It has to be stored in a database. Somebody's got to, you know, make reports on that. You know, we're not doing the entire process on paper, but what oftentimes happens is it starts out on paper and somebody's job is to put that into a computer somewhere. So when you start the data digitally out right there, you stop a lot of errors. There's no bad handwriting. And you can also put in data qualifiers, as opposed to if there's a paper form, somebody's writing something down, they can kind of write it in their own format. But if it's digitally, we can require you to write it in the format that it's meant to be in.
Right.
You know, as in, you know, it should be this number digits. If it's over this many, if it's over this number, then, you know, you can have a pop-up that says, hey, this is too much, you know, please explain why, or this is too much, you can't take this sample, and stuff like that. When you're doing it on a paper form cannot tell you when it's too much. You know, they cannot tell you that there's too many digits, or that you didn't include like a square or a number or a type of unit that you're using. So the digital forms can improve your accuracy immensely. And then also
it speeds it up too. So
speeds it up. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, because you're not, you know, you're not dealing with that everything that's on that paper form that you're going to be taking a while, because it's just not, it's old. And the nice thing is complete digital chain of custody. Russell, explain that.
So we've got a couple of patents on this actually, and we, you know, when you're so we have a 5-factor authentication on every sample collected. We know who the user is because we authenticate the user through 3 factors, and it's username and password, right? Everyone knows never give up your password. So if you're logged in as you, it's natural to assume it's you. And then you're going to sign your name every time you collect a sample on the device, and then that signature gets printed on the label. So you don't have to sign. If you need 5 bottles, you sign your name one time, and that unique signature gets printed on those 5 labels each time. And then you're going to take a selfie as well. So a lot of people get weirded out by the selfie part, but get used to it. As we tell some people, it's like you don't have to take a selfie, but you do have to take a picture. So, so you take the selfie. So now we know it's you for sure. We also get a date and time stamp at the time you hit that sample button. So that becomes the official sample time. And then we get a GPS location, right? So we already know the official location of the sample if you pre-entered that. So we know where the GPS location of the sample, the location of the item that you're sampling. But then when you hit that sample button, we're going to record where that tablet was. So it's going to show you, you know, within a certain proximity of that particular tablet. If you're outside the proximity that the project manager has established, they wanted you to be within, when you hit that sample button, it'll pop up a warning confirming, you know, that, you know, like, hey, it's raining out, so I left my tablet in the truck. So I'm 70 feet away versus outside of the 50-foot range. So there's reasons where you may need to be outside of it. So we've covered all those bases. You just write a little note while you're outside that range and then proceed with the sampling. So that's the digital chain of custody, and it's better than paper because there's no changing the data. It's going to really lock in that so that that chain of custody then goes all the way to the laboratory. You go through that same process if you're going to transfer custody. So if I gave my samples to Josh, I would go through the process relinquishing, and then he would go through that process accepting the custody, and then the same thing happens at the laboratory as well. Or if you ship via FedEx or UPS, you're just going to indicate that you dropped it off. There's a mechanism for all that third-party, commercial carrier to get it to the laboratory as well. So it's similar to paper in that you're just going to document that you dropped it off at FedEx, put in the tracking number, and then the lab has that information instantly, and then they'll go through that digital chain of custody acceptance at the laboratory. So it's really simpler. And then you don't have to actually physically fill out your chain of custody.
And that's the nice part. And that's the time saver right there.
The 3-part triplicate paper goes away, saves labs a ton of time on receiving that information. It's in a digital format. They can push it into their LIMS system. So it's very beneficial for all parties involved.
Right. And that's another case where people are starting something on paper format, the chain of custody, and it goes to the lab, and every lab is turning these chain of custodies into a digital format some way.
Yeah. You're typing it in, typically.
Typing it in, yeah. Along with all the field data.
And a cooler full of samples can represent 20, 30 minutes of data entry time for a laboratory. And more importantly, it represents an opportunity for errors, right? They're typing things in, is that a 3 or a 5? We can't tell. So they take a guess and, guess wrong. So all that goes away.
Yeah, and the nice thing, instant data retrieval. So once you fill out, all the field forms, all of the sample information that you're doing in the field, all that information is instantly retrievable on our platform. So anybody can really access this stuff. The project manager can be in the office, and once the tablet gets back connected to the internet, all that information is back up there, as opposed to waiting for the your field tech to get back, or you're waiting for the some of the data to be re-entered back into your database. All the stuff is instant, so it's everything's really, you kind of get a real-time outlook on what's going on with your projects, which is
it's available as a data file, which can then be pushed into another platform, Equus, or into the lab's LIMS system. But we also generate a PDF as well, so that human beings can look at the raw data on a PDF, which you can print out on a piece of paper if you want to as well. So, so the data is available in different formats that have different purposes, but it's all right there, useful.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time. How many more?
That's it right there.
Yeah, okay, good.
So, I know we covered some of the aspects of our sample UV platform for drinking water. And I think that if you really want to get a more in-depth view into what our platform's capability is, because we really only just covered the surface of what it can do, go to SampleServe.com and take our virtual demo. It's right on the top right, hit virtual demo there, and you can watch. It takes you about 25 minutes to get all the way through, and it'll show you everything that we have going on with the app. And you'll learn a lot. And most people that watch it are very intrigued, and most people that watch it start an account and start messing around in our platform and uploading samples and planning projects, and all of this stuff is free, by the way. From the planning projects to communicating with the lab, communicating with the techs, pushing the field or the work scopes to the field app, all that stuff is free. Collecting data in the field. All that stuff is absolutely, we don't charge there's no trial or anything like that. What we do charge for is when you want to make professional graphics on our platform, because we also have a report generator that, you easily create professional style report graphics. So once you get to that point, then we'll talk to you about if you're interested in that or not. But till then, we just want people to try it out and, see how it works for them. And usually people like it. So.
Yep.
I think that's all we got for us today. I think we're ending right on time. We like to keep these about 20 minutes. So look out for our next one, guys, and have a good one.
See you next week.